Okay, so thank you for your invitation. I will present you the future of surgery based on image guidance and also augmented surgery, which is, as you will see, a part of robotic and augmented reality aspect that will progressively facilitate the surgical procedure. So to explain why we need that, the first thing is to understand that every surgeon would like to be a Superman. That means to see through the patient the pathology in order to be guided by his vision. But in the real life, you know that we don't have the Superman vision. We have to replace that CT scan or eventually MRI. And this kind of imaging provides us 3D info inside the body, but cut in slices. And the fact that it is cut in slices and the fact that the medical image is in gray level represent two problems in reality. Because the first thing is the fact that we don't have a vision. As you can see onto this picture, we do not recognize anything inside this image, even if there is something inside. If I replace these two gray levels here, that you can see in these 2 pixels, by a color, we will see now the object inside the medical image. What I want to show you with this, of course, artificial example is our limit of vision. We can see only 16 gray levels of contrast, even if a medical image contains more than 2,000 gray levels. So, of course, it's a problem to understand and to see inside. Second problem is the fact that the image is cut in slices. And in the real life, we never see the patient cut in slices. So we have difficulty with our brain to understand what is the shape of this pink structure. And the 3D reconstruction by our brain is not really efficient. So it's a big problem that creates error. As you can see here, an article of 2017 shows that there was 40,000 deaths due to diagnosis or treatment decision error in the US per year. So you understand well that it is a major problem that we have to overcome. Only to give you value, in France, we have 60,000 surgical errors that could be avoided every year, and about 8,000 deaths due to such error. So you understand it's a common and general problem, not linked to US, but really general everywhere. And to overcome this problem, we need solution. So the good news is that we cannot be Superman, but we can be Iron Man. That means that we can add possibilities through technology give to the surgeon. If you look at Iron Man, we can duplicate him. And if you look how it works, when you put the helmet, you will have access to a set of systems, robotic, to be able to do more things with your physics, so you can manipulate better. You have, as you see, an augmented vision. You can see much more things thanks to augmented reality. And you have an artificial intelligence system. So these 3 aspects of Iron Man is what we have called augmented surgery. And this augmented surgery is developed in ARCAD in these 3 aspects: robotic, to have more capability of gesture; vision, to see through the patient with augmented reality; and cognition, to have an improvement of our way to understand data thanks to a computer. So these 3 things are today under development, and I will show you what we have obtained currently in Strasbourg, but not only in Strasbourg, you can have access in several areas to such technology progressively. So first of all, the medical image. As you see here, what can be performed with a computer using an artificial intelligence system or computer-based system is to automatically detect the pink structure and to automatically reconstruct that in 3D. And you see here the 3D reconstruction of this object. You see it was a heart. The computer does not only do that like this, because if you look at that structure, it looks like Lego, and of course it's not really nice. The system can construct around what we call a mesh, and this mesh allows to have a nice rendering that looks like reality. And it's clearly what we can provide. And to propose this system in routine, we have created and developed a new company named Visible Patient. And we have created a lab, like a medical lab, but online. You can send your medical image. We receive it through a secure system. And then our lab creates for you the model of your patient from the medical image using our artificial intelligence software, but double-checked by human. And at the end, you obtain a 3D model that can be provided for any part of the body from a CT or from an MRI. So this system, this service, work online. You only pay for the model, and then you have access to the part of the body you will have surgery for. From this model now, we have also provided free software that allows to visualize the model, but also to simulate the surgery. And I would like to show you some example to illustrate how it works. So here, first example with liver. You see here a CT scan of the liver. In this image, we have, if you look here at this position in the back of the right part of the liver, you see here a tumor that is clearly located, if you look the vena cava on the right hepatic branch, in a position that looks like the segment 7 or eventually the segment 8 when you look the position. We had a second pathology here that was located, so you see better here with this contrast change, that was just in front of the right hepatic branch, and here you have the middle hepatic branch, and if you click in the middle, you see that it was upper the ileum part of the liver, so that means it's inside the segment 8, at the middle of the segment 8. So, these two tumors was diagnosed in the segment 7 and 8, and due to the volume provided by radiology, that was about 60% of the volume for the right liver, 40% of the left liver, of course, the decision was to resect easily the right liver. In 3D, the same patient is the following one. So you see immediately a big difference between the CT scan and the 3D model of the patient. 3D model is much more easy to understand for your patient. So you can explain much more easily to your patient what you will do. And it's also a good tool for your student to explain or to teach them in this domain. Now, if I remove the bones, I zoom, you see the liver. I can put under transparency the liver. You see really well here in green these two tumors. You see here the median hepatic branch. What is interesting, you see also the gallbladder. So clearly these two tumors are in the right part. And what is really great with the software is the fact that we can simulate clip applying. So I will turn down, I will zoom in. Here, ileum part, you see here the right branch. Again, you see with the transparency. And what we will do is to put a clip here onto the right branch to do the right resection. And you see immediately the right part of the liver change colors. So I have a new colors because I have put a virtual clip. So you see in orange this right liver. And you obtain immediately the percentage of the cutting area in colors and of the remaining area that is here in transparent. And the software says you that we have 54% of remaining liver. That corresponds absolutely not to what radiology says, because they say that it was 40% of remaining liver. When I rotate now, I can discover that no of the tumors, no ones, are in this right part. So these two tumors have no blood supplied by the right branch. If now I put a clip onto the left branch here, I see in blue, you see the left liver. I put again under transparency. And if I rotate, I discover that these two tumors have finally a blood supplied by the left portal branch. So it's a really surprising variation. When you zoom again, you unzoom, and when you look from an anterior view, you see that the separating line between right and left does not follow the medial hepatic branch, and this is an horizontal line to separate right and left. So why? Because in this case, we have an anatomical variation. This patient has no right hepatic branch, and he has a blood supplied. You see here, several branches come from the left part, but you see here we have no right paramedian branch, and it is the reason why we have this blood supplied by a branch coming from the left. First example, to illustrate the benefit to have a 3D model. Second example, here with lungs, you see it's a pediatric case. I hear before that you were speaking about pediatric surgery. It's a case, I was doing a live surgery, I was here for a course, and the surgeon said, we have a stick adenomatoid pathology, and we will have to resect the right upper lobe of this lung. And you look the sagittal view, it clearly seems to be in the right upper lobe. It was the diagnosis by the surgical and radiological team, and the surgeon, just before to start, explained the case. But I was in the room and I said, sorry, it's absolutely not in the right upper lobe. Why? Because I switched in 3D. So you see here again this child. I can remove the skin. I can zoom in. So exactly like before, I can simulate my clip applying really easily. So I put a clip onto the right upper branch. Immediately I see in colors the right upper lobe of the lung. I can remove, here you see the bones, put under transparency my right lung, and I discover in yellow the clip applying, and in green it is the kyst that is, as you see, absolutely not in the right upper lobe. Again, an error in the interpretation of the medical image. I can remove to see better. You see here the pathology. I can put, of course, a clip in the better area. What was performed for this case was this branch. You see, it's the territory that was resected for this patient correctly, thanks to the 3D model. Here again, we avoid a surgical error. Last example, onto kidney now. You see here a double nephroblastoma onto a child of 5-year-old. You see here the big tumors on left and tumors on right. You see also the same thing in the sagittal view, frontal view, sorry, here. From this image, the diagnosis was, and the therapeutical choice of the surgical team was, we have to resect the total left liver, and we will preserve half of the right kidney. Sorry, kidney, not liver, of course. So the whole left kidney, and we will preserve half of the right kidney. A second surgical team in Paris was requested to have a second advice, and they obtained exactly the same definition of the strategy: remove the left kidney, keep half of the right kidney, and after 6 months of dialysis, perform a transplantation if there is no remaining tumors that grow again. But the surgeon asked for a 3D modeling. And here is the 3D reconstruction of this case. In 3D, you see that there is these 2 tumors in green. You can also see that with the software, we have added in yellow a security margin to preserve maximum of the tissue, but also to be sure to have no recurrence tumors. So I remove the kidney vein and I zoom in. Exactly like for liver and for lungs, I can put clip. So I put a clip onto this back artery and to this front artery, and I see in colors the resecting territory, exactly like before for liver and kidney, and lung. You see that I have 50% of remaining kidney and 39 cc of this volume. For the height and the weight of this child, it was much more than was planned. It represents 2/3 of a normal kidney. Now, if I check the left kidney, you see that we have an anatomical variation with 2 arteries. I can cut this branch, and I will certainly remove most of the, as you can see here, most of the blood supply of the tumor, but a part of the security margin is not secured. So I had here a second clip. When I do that, I have a really small part you see here in the lower part of remaining tissue. But if you look for the percentage, it represents 17% of the volume, but 32% of the functional kidney, and much more, 24 cc, which is really a large volume for the weight of this child. So it was a really good news, because if you do the sum of the 2 remaining volume, we have about 1 full kidney volume. And so the decision was changed. They have resected only part of the kidney, as you can see here, a double partial nephrectomy. The surgery was performed in January 2018. In February, the child came back to school. I can say you that he had absolutely no dialysis. He had, of course, no transplantation. Today, this child is 6-year-old. He is perfectly safe without recurrent tumors. So it's a third example to illustrate the great benefit to have a 3D models in routine in order to avoid some error, some approximation in our therapeutical choice, because we can test the choice before. Of course, there is a cost behind that, but today in France, we have a coverage of this cost by some private insurance. It's what you can see onto the slide. As you see, more and more patients can have access to that modeling freely, thanks to the access by insurance coverage. And to be honest, we will have about 80% of the French population next year that will be covered by the private insurance in France. The objective now for us is to extend that everywhere worldwide in order to have this service everywhere really easily. Now, with this modeling, you can check that, of course, to have a 3D model make much more easy the discussion with the patient. But it has another big benefit. You can bring it to the OP room. And if you bring it to the OP room, is what you see here, you have access to the medical image like finally a GPS, even if it's not really a GPS. And you can also plug it onto the robot really easily, as you can see, with the plug-and-play system. Here it's Professor Armando Milani, who is performing colorectal surgery. And during his surgery, he can see in the upper part, as you see, the laparoscopic view of the robot, and in the lower part, the patient map. So it's great, but it's not really see-through, as I explained you with Superman before, because see-through is not see side by side. And here, what I've shown you is see side by side. What we want is to fuse the two data together. And if you do that, then we see through. It's what we call augmented reality. We did it for the first time in 2004 in France. It was published in JAMA. But you can see here how it was working in the past. We were performing an external view with an external camera, and the augmented reality was projected onto a display. And it is what the display shows us. We can see through the patient thanks to the registration. The registration was performed initially by external landmark, but manually by moving the model in 3D at the good place. Of course, it cannot take into account breathing movement. It cannot take into account the surgical movement. And when you put your hand over the patient, you don't see your hand because it is behind the virtual model. All that problem was overcome progressively. So you can see here a system we use now, which is the HoloLens from Microsoft. It allows us to see through directly with our eyes without any external camera in the OP room. It's a big improvement, of course, of the initial system because, as you can see here, when I move with my head display, I can see through the organs. Second point, how to perform automatically the registration. With the HoloLens, you have RGBD camera. And with the RGBD camera, we can reconstruct, thanks to our software, the surface of the patient in real time. And from this surface, we have developed software that automatically do a non-rigid registration of the preoperative patient onto the real new position of the patient. It's what you see here. It's, of course, only from external landmarks that we can do that in this view, but it's sufficient to do, as you can see here, intraoperatively to provide a see-through vision of the patient. And you see, we can also take into account the hand position of the surgeon to keep the hand over the virtual image. That is much more better for augmented reality. We have also worked onto the breathing movement I mentioned. And what you can see here is the fact that we can track in real time the breathing movement of the patient thanks to the surface analysis of the skin, again with the RGBD camera. And we can simulate in real time, as you can see here, the breathing movement inside the body with, today, 0.8 millimeter of precision. So, you see, from an external view, we can provide a see-through vision of the patient, finally like Superman. But it's not sufficient because in the real life, we don't only do a vision, we do surgery. And when we do surgery, we will modify the position of patients' organs, and it is really a problem. For instance, if you had gas for pneumoperitoneum, if you change the table of position, all the organs inside will change of position, and only an external view is not sufficient to provide an accurate registration of the data. It is a reason why we need intraoperative imaging system. It's what we call image-guided surgery. Image-guided surgery consists to add in an OP room a medical imaging system to be able to guide the surgeon. If we do that, you can see here the equipment we have in Strasbourg. We have equipped 3 OP rooms with different systems that are large imaging systems, and we have also 9 OP rooms with mobile systems like C-arm, mobile C-arm, or ultrasound. Here you see an MRI room where we can do surgery inside. In the next room, you see a robotic C-arm that can rotate around the patient, as I will show you. And here you see a CT scan and gantry that can go from one room to another. So we have about all capability of imaging. Here what you can see is the last generation of mobile robotic C-arm. As you see here, we can rotate around the patient intraoperatively to obtain a really amazing quality of imaging. And now from this image, here is what we do during the surgery. After tool positioning, we do an acquisition that takes 5 seconds. And at the end of these 5 seconds, we have a new image that you can see here in orange. This image provides you the new position of the patient organs. And then we can do a registration, automatic registration between the preoperative image and the intraoperative image. So we have the new position of organs if we deform in the same way the 3D models. And of course, it's what we do. So you obtain at the end of this process, that is really fast, it takes about a few seconds, we obtain the new position of the organs. And when you have this initial registration, you can then apply exactly what I've shown you from the external view if you have a laparoscopic camera. So here is the result with the laparoscopic camera. In real time, we can track the breathing movement inside the body after pneumoperitoneum, and it is the state of the art of our work. We have 2 mm of precision. Of course, the future of that will be to take into account the resection, because when you cut the organ, you change the topology of the model. And if you change the topology of the model, you need to take into account the change that takes time. It's the current state of the art, so also the current state of the research. Okay, of course, when you see that, you can immediately imagine. If I can see that with a computer, it should be really interesting to push that in a robot. Because if the robot knows with 2 mm precision the position of organs and vessels, it should be really great. So we did this plug, as you can see here. So I go faster. You see here the see-through vision before to do tool positioning. And you know it's really important for robotic surgery because the tool positioning is really important. You see here this introduction of tools in a side-by-side view. And then you will see the external view for each tool. You see, before to place a real instrument, we do a virtual instrument placement. And then, after the tool placement, the surgeon goes onto the system, and then he will not have a side-by-side view, but a see-through vision with a laparoscopic vision inside the robot. So, as I show you here, we have the capability to plug augmented reality with robot. That means that we can add to the robot the information of location of organs, position of organs. It's great, but it's really interesting only if you can control with your computer the robot. And it was not the case with this robot. So we have developed our own robots. Here is this robot. It's a flexible endoscope that has been robotized. The great benefit of this robot developed in partnership with Karl Storz is the fact that we can put inside instrument. It's a single pore approach. You can do endoluminal surgery, like for instance colorectal surgery. You can also do transluminal surgery, or you can do single pore approach surgery. It's small, so you can bring all the instruments inside, and the surgeon, you see, can manipulate it. Here, what you see, it is a submucosal resection performed with this robot with an amazing accuracy. That means no perforation of colon. We have made a comparison between an expert of submucosal resection without robot and with a non-expert, that means a new user of submucosal resection, sorry, with the robot. The difference was really amazing. In one case, you have about 50% of perforation in the rectum of a pig, which is really small. With the robot, absolutely no perforation when you use the robot. It's totally different. So, it's good for this robot, but what is really important, it is our robot. And if it is our robot, I can control it. And if I can control it, for instance, I can take into account what I've shown you before, the breathing movement. Here you see the problem. We have a tumor onto the liver, but it moves. If I stop the movie, of course, it stops to move, but the surgeon will not be appreciate the fact that I stop the movie. So, a second solution is to stop the breathing of the patient, but it's not a really good solution. The last solution consists to use what I've shown you before, the augmented reality, that can track in real time the breathing movement, and to ask to the system to control the robot. And it is what you see here into this video. You see the tumor remain here on the left at the center of the image. Why? Because in real time, the computer moves for you, the robot, to track the breathing movement. It is really automation, totally automatic system for tracking breathing movement in real time. It filters the breathing movement, and it is a part of the future. So understand well, when we say automation, it doesn't mean replace the surgeon by the robot that will do everything. Absolutely not. It is an assistant that can do things that a human cannot do. It is what we are waiting from a robot. We are not waiting a replacement of the surgeon. We are waiting a new assistant that can do what human cannot perform. Now, to conclude, it's really important to understand that all what I've shown you, this future operating room, hybrid room, will need, of course, artificial intelligence behind to assist us. And this artificial intelligence means to use data like finally a GPS uses the data. When you drive, you can plan before to start what will be your travel. But when you drive, sometimes you will change your road. For instance, the GPS says you turn right, but you turn left. And this kind of error has to be tracked, and the system has to assist you if you change what you have planned. And it is exactly what we are currently working on with artificial intelligence. Here, what you see is a real-time analysis of the video image, where we can track in real time the breathing movement, the movement, and also the surgical instrument. Thanks to that, we can do augmented reality I've shown you, but we can also do artificial intelligence analysis. For instance, here, the software automatically detects in the video surgery, in real time, the surgical step that you are performing. Here, for instance, for gallbladder resection, the system detects 7 stages, and when you will do your surgery, it can predict the surgical time procedure. It's what you see here. The predictive time is in white, and the red is the real time. The difference is only 5 seconds here in this prediction by this virtual GPS of the surgeon. You can also compare surgery with this system automatically. You see here 2 surgery. Here it's a 55-minute surgery against a 18-minute surgery, and the system can compare the different procedure time. It can automatically find where you are, so it can also detect the procedure step, but also if you want to go, for instance, here you see find me a bipolar inside the video, automatically can find and show you a bipolar inside the video. It's really interesting when you want to compare or when you want to assist. So in the future, this kind of tool will be used intraoperatively to automatically detect if your resident, for instance, or yourself, are not performing what was planned. If you have a planning surgery, the system could say, oh, you did not turn right, but you turn left. It's not normal. It's not what was planned. It can be normal, perhaps, if you change what you have planned voluntarily, but it can be also an error. And in the future, thanks to this artificial intelligence, we will be able to detect that automatically and to assist the surgeon. So to conclude, you understand well that in the future, in this hybrid surgery, in this image-guided surgery, the data will be at the center of everything. But it is really important to understand that it will not be only intraoperative data, it will be preoperative and pre-hospital data, and also post-operative data that has to be stored if we want to reach the final goal, a perfect assistance of the surgeon. Because if you don't know what is the efficiency of your surgery post-operatively, you don't know if your surgery is correct or not. So track the patient after the surgery is really a key issue that IoT, the new system of tracking of data on site, for instance, my clock that give me some information. You know we have sensors now that we can stick onto the patient that give us lots of information. So in the future, after the surgery, we will stick this kind of sensor to have feedback, post-operative feedback in long term. So I think I've concluded with this picture. The future clearly will use image-guided surgery to assist the surgeon. Thank you for your attention.